This is EdTech, the monthly podcast put on to you by the fine folks at Aviation, looking at the education space for AV. My name is Tim Mulberry. I'm your host. With us is Ernie. Ernie Bailey is from UAMS in beautiful Little Rock, Arkansas. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Tim.
Also with us is Greg Brown from UCLA. Hello, sir.
Hello, guys. Hi, Tim. Where we have that strange thing. What is it called? Where when water comes down from the sky? We haven't had it since I think they said February of this year. So
Well, it's not snow.
Really?
So it's rain.
It's yes, rain. That's
rain.
what it's called. Yes.
But it's probably still 80.
No, it's actually in the low 60s. I'm not sure we're going to survive.
Greg's got his parka with him.
Yeah, he
Yes,
does.
actually, I have my heavy coat behind me here,
His North Face coat
just in case. Yes.
and mittens. Whereby Mike is close to another friend of mine, Heather Sidorowitz, up in New York. Mike Tomei is from Ithaca College. How are you, sir?
Good. How are you?
Good. How close are you to Buffalo, by the way? I have no idea where in relation to that.
I would say 3 or 4 hours. So
Okay.
we're right in the middle of the state.
We had Heather Sidorowitz from Southtown AV on our another show we do called AV Week, the week of that big giant blizzard, and she had been in her house. Well, we do the show on Friday. She had been in her house since Monday.
Yeah.
And had like 87 inches of snow.
We got lucky. We got none of that. So
You got none of that. So
Yeah.
well, that's the other thing is she said it was they called it a blade of
Yeah.
snow. Right? So it was if you were it was a 10-mile stretch, and if you were outside of that stretch, you were perfectly okay. So
yeah, the lake effect stuff.
yeah.
Yep.
Gotta love that. Gotta love Buffalo.
Yep.
All right, let's kick this around with. This is our December podcast for this show, and typically we kind of like wrap the whole year together, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that have come out over the year, technology-wise, and just that affect the education space. But first, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the news that's happened in the last month. One is from the Boston Globe, and Greg sent me this, and as soon as I saw it, I'm like, well, that could be tricky. Harvard apparently has secretly photographed students to study attendance. Now, the only issue I have with that is the secretly part.
Other than that, it was just fine.
Yeah,
Right?
other than that, it was just fine. Mike actually used to work for Harvard, so we're going to kick this one off with him.
Sure.
I'm not going to ask what they were thinking because that's not fair because none of us work for them.
Well,
But
I have an idea.
yeah, shoot.
Yeah. So I'll say it wasn't happening when I was there.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah. I've been gone for about 3 years. So I recall that happening. They probably would have had me help install cameras in the rooms if that was the case. But when I was working there, when I first started, they were really ramping up their lecture capture program, and a lot of the faculty was concerned that students wouldn't show up if videos were available online. They could just watch it from their dorm room and not show up. And it was funny. I remember a lot of classes when exams were happening or papers due, all of a sudden attendance doubles that day because everybody's showing up. So it's pretty funny. So that probably came from that concern that they wanted to see who was showing up and when and why. So I don't know. It's not something that I was too surprised about. I mean, I think they went about it the wrong way, but it wasn't like they were being very devious, I guess. So, but definitely went about it the wrong way.
All right, so let's take the other side of this. Greg, none of us are lawyers. I want to point that out. But what are some of the ramifications and some of the issues with doing this? I mean, like Mike said, they're already doing class capture, so there are cameras in the room. It's not like these students are idiots and couldn't see that, right?
Well, I think even as we're seeing in some of those areas with the lecture capture, we're seeing just how weird of a little world this is that we are in higher ed because we had it here. There are a lot of places where even putting in those obvious cameras for known usages like lecture capture is a big political football in some places, where you have to get everybody's buy-in, you have to get releases if the students are shown, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. On the flip side, there are other schools that, for lecture capture, they're just putting in the cameras, and because we say we will have cameras. So it's a weird little mix of environments out there still. And in a sense, I thought some of the indignity was a little bit. I understand it, but I think it was also very emblematic of just how out of step, in a way, some of the little our isolated little higher ed world is from the rest of the world. I mean, if we're getting so upset about things like this, what about the analytics we're now starting to see in digital signage, where they're putting a camera and it's recording all this information, about the ages and the sexes of everybody that looks at the ads and their reactions and how much attention they pay. We live in a weird little world that's looking at this sort of thing very, very differently, and it's just as out of step with a lot of the stuff that's happening in the real world as a lot of people are in some ways.
Well, and Ernie, here's the thing. The first thing I saw of this, I thought of when I saw this. This is the generation of the selfie, for crying out loud, right? I mean, these are people who take pictures of themselves all day long. Why is this an issue?
I mean, I don't think that would be an issue here on our campus. It's not unusual to have a photographer step in the back of the room, take a picture for PR or something like that, and I believe there are probably disclaimers hidden in your financial agreements for the school. If you're going to school here, you risk having your picture taken. And if they're taking it for an attendance count, once again, I don't see a problem with it. If they're looking to see who's in class, then maybe that's an issue. If you're trying to recognize faces, if you're counting tops of heads, I don't see an issue. On the lecture capture side, as you mentioned, students may not be showing up. What we've found is the tool that we use for lecture capture allows us to live stream classes as well. Mm-hmm. So, they're getting it in real time, and they're almost coming to class. Tim, you've seen our campus. There's real nice lounge furniture outside the lecture halls. And generally, at least a third of the class is out there, their feet propped up, not at the lecture desk, in the classroom, but they're in class. They're out in the hall in a much more comfortable chair and making snide remarks to the guy sitting beside them. But they're not, the instructor doesn't see them. He sees them as he walks in and out of the lecture hall. So they're getting hit with a camera at that point. If they're in the classroom, and Tim, we've gone through to program our lecture capture cameras here.
Yes, sir.
Where we have microphones every 2 seats on the table, so if a student hits a microphone, they're up on the big screen, both in that classroom and possibly in a distant site as well, and they're being captured with lecture capture system. So what's one more picture?
Yeah.
That's
I
my
know
thinking.
I know with some of our big lectures, we don't live stream anything, but we record a number of them, particularly big lectures, and they started to see that in the early days, that people started showing up a whole lot less, and the thing they started announcing was, hey, if attendance really drops in this class, we will cut off the recording of them. They expect them to be in class, and you'll be in class for the most part, or this nice recording medium will go away. Consider yourself warned.
When we first started looking at lecture capture several years ago, we had that concern, and I talked to our counterpart at Emory, and she told me that they'd been doing it for several years, and they had that concern when they first started up. And yes, the first year they did lecture capture, attendance dropped off. After the first semester, what they started seeing was the instructors that were using lecture capture had full classrooms. They were the first ones to have their classes filled, and the students quit scribbling down everything that was said and paid attention in class, knowing that they could go back and watch the recording.
Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm. I like the idea of making the videos available a week before an exam, just kind of, instead of that day, just kind of releasing all 15 of them so they can study from them, but they still attend class. A few classes at Harvard were doing that and had some good success doing that.
I like that. Our students complain if the lecture's not available within 10 minutes of the class being over.
Yeah.
Being rendered in multiple formats and edited for content and all that.
Ours are that way too. Once that genie is out of the box, that they expect, immediately. It's immediate.
Yep.
Let me ask you guys this, and Ernie, I want to ask the question with you first because you mentioned the fact that your students can sit there and stream, right? Either sitting in there or sitting right outside there. When does it become? When do we start counting as attending if you're watching on a virtual device? Because and we'll correlate this to the broadcast world, right? Currently, and you may not know this, if you watch a show live and you are a Nielsen house or one of the houses that attribute to the number of people that are actually watching the show, if you watch it live, then you're obviously counted. If you record it and you watch it, I want to say it was within 2 or 3 days, it's still counted. So
3 days. We were a Nielsen family about a year and a half ago. So.
Okay, then you know the deal.
Yeah.
So when should it? I mean, are we there already? Where if you're watching it virtually, that you should be counted as attending?
Well, we're not counting attendance in a lot of our classes anymore. Some of the instructors do, but most of them, it's your money you're paying to learn this. You've got to have the information to pass the test. However you learn best is up to you. That's the feeling of a lot of our faculty. That's a new thought coming to a lot of them, but they're agreeing to it. The ones that really want to do attendance, give something, give extra credit for showing up for class or for participating in class, or they might say, if you're in class, I'm going to give you the answer to number 3 on the test, something like that. Just to kind of encourage attendance. But for most of them, it's I'm providing the material. You're going to need the material I'm providing to pass the test. You can get it in class. You can watch the lecture. You can read the notes. Or you can go find a book and try to find it yourself.
But you have to learn it somewhere.
You have to learn it, yeah.
Okay.
It's a great, big, quickly changing, strange little corner of our world right now.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's talk about a company that, well, let's be honest, Sony hasn't hit a whole lot of home runs lately. They did win the Blu-ray battle, right? Which was a great victory, sort of.
For a few.
Oh yeah. I just look at all the Blu-rays we're buying by the pound around here. The hundreds of Blu-rays we've got stacked up. All the Blu-ray usage we've seen out in. Oh, wait a second. What you said, Blu-ray? I'm sorry, I was mistaking for some technology that Higher Ed actually adopted.
And actually, this is a total consumer electronics part. I buy the Blu-rays now as long as they come packaged with the standard definition and a download of some sort. So we just did a whole bunch of shopping for Christmas and got some Disney movies, for the little ones, and made sure that the ones we bought, at least had the option to, as part of the same purchase price, has all that stuff with it. So, but they are coming out with something interesting, right? This is from AV Forums. The Sony VPL VW300ES. There will not be a test on that one. It's the first, Sony's first at least, 4K projector that is in the quote-unquote affordable market. I want to say the quote-unquote affordable market. Greg, I'm going to start with you on this because,
of course.
Well, no, you're the only guy I know that the only education place I know that has Sonys, right?
Yes. Yeah, one Sony a month ago, the first one in 20 years.
But you're the only person I know
Okay, well, yeah. When I saw this story, I'm looking at Sony 4K video projector. Great, we've packed two completely irrelevant things into one story. Um, I,
But
I,
is this a big deal? I mean, is it a big deal, first of all, to
I,
get 4K at an affordable price for the education guys and girls?
I. It seems like more of a resi story to me.
Okay.
And I am completely unqualified to speak to the residential world. I don't even think I have a DVD player at home right now, much less a Blu-ray player.
You don't have a
Um,
DVD player?
I don't. I had one for a while, but it
You
broke.
stream everything then, or you just don't?
I don't watch a lot of
Well,
TV.
there you go.
I mean, I have cable. I have a 42-inch flat screen because I won one at a Stampede show about 6 months
Nice.
ago. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, kicking and screaming, I moved into the digital television age, and had to get HD, cable, or rather UVerse,
Yeah.
based on that. But this, I suppose it's a good thing, and I like Sony. I've got a soft spot for the old traditional old line companies. I
The
don't I
one and only.
Yeah, Sony, the one and only, exactly. Oh, we could probably rabbit trail down all sorts of
Yes.
archaic marketing slogans that nobody in our audience would remember. Um, so
Oh,
I
you'd be
suppose
surprised. There's some pretty old folks that listen to us.
this is, yeah, all seven of them, right?
Yes. All seven of them.
They better dump the cassette tape first. But.
Yeah. Oh, nice.
What? We're not out on that medium?
That's we started. We dumped these to cassettes and sent them out in Walkmans. So
Yeah.
There we go. There we go. Um, I suppose it's a good move. We'll have to see, how long it is around. I'm glad to see that they haven't changed their marketing strategy of completely screwy projector model numbers.
well, let's be honest. Nobody's model number that makes any sense,
No,
No.
this is
especially in projectors.
Mitsubishi did, but
I mean, flat
look
panels.
where
At
it
least
got
the
them.
screen size is in the model number, right?
Yeah.
Flat panels, you at least if there's an 80 in there, it's an 80 inch. It's a 60
Yeah, but
inch.
what size is a 5042 model?
A what?
If the model number is 5042, which is the size?
Oh, that's a good question. I would
Who
say
is that? Is that Panasonic? That sounds like a
Yeah,
Panasonic.
probably. Well, not anymore.
I don't know. I saw that one somewhere the other day, and I had to get my tape measure out and figure out which one it was.
It sounds like a neat projector. Good luck to them.
All right, Mike. The reason I say I said quote unquote affordable, you were talking about 9,000 ish for the lower model. Most education people that I deal with, $9,000 is not what they would count as affordable,
No.
unless you're talking about lecture hall or
Right.
event space type thing. When I hear affordable, I'm thinking the small form factor, the ones you're going to throw into classrooms.
Yeah.
Where does that price have to be before education starts looking at 4K as a viable replacement to 1080 or 720?
I mean, well, this projector looked like it was only 1,500 lumens.
Yes, that's my problem with it.
Yeah, so that seems like
Not a
residential
lot
to
of
me.
And for $9,000 too.
Yeah,
I've got to stack two of them in a small classroom to get enough brightness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You open one window, you're not going to see anything. I think it's they expect it to be in a little dark living room in somebody's house, and but yeah, that's still too much for me to throw it in a room, especially because I just don't have any need at the moment for 4K projectors. But right, that's just too much right there. Yeah, hard to say what we would pay for a 4K. I guess we'd need a lot more lumens than that in a classroom. So.
Ernie, you bring up a good point. Is lumens more important than resolution at this point for classrooms?
Well, I mean,
God,
we've
yes.
got we got lumen floor, okay? I'm
Okay.
not going to go below 3,000, 3,500 lumens in any of my classrooms. Period.
Wow. Okay.
The size images that we're looking at, and just
And
what
is
our
that-
people are expecting.
Is that in conjunction with the size image? So your size image is there's a floor for that as well as for the lumens?
Well, we do look at lumens per square foot and
Okay.
the size of the room, the ambient light that we have in the room. But I mean, I generally buy 3,000, 3,500 lumen projectors for our small classrooms. I may run them in economy mode, so it bumps it down a little bit. But I don't want less than that available to me when I'm setting up the classroom.
That makes sense.
Ernie made a really good. Ernie stumbled into a really good point there.
Jeez.
that we should emphasize that the bottom line isn't the brightness per se; it's the contrast ratio.
Yes.
We all fight this battle, and if you, all 7 of you out there listening to us, if you are fighting this battle or fight it in any way, shape, or form, get yourself the Infocom contrast ratio standard.
Yeah.
And get out there and start figuring out the contrast ratio in some of your rooms. If you have any sort of a projector brightness battle that you've got to fight, that's the way to go, is get everybody talking contrast ratio and take some real honest to God measurements and point to a neat fancy document that has numbers in it, and everybody will think you're smart. Works for me all the time.
And take your measurements at 2 different times during the day.
Yeah.
In the morning might look great. Sun will make its way around the building, and then afternoon no one can see a thing.
Yes,
Right.
sun is something we have a terrible problem with around. It is around all the time.
We put classrooms either underground or on the inside of the building with the windows in the hallways. So that makes it a little bit better.
Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. And then that was the other thing that, to Greg's point, Infocom has done a lot of work. Our buddy Matt Silverman was on the standards committee that was dealing with that. And the one thing I'll caution is you're going to point to that document and it has a lot of numbers. Make certain that even though the spec says it's X contrast ratio,
Yeah.
get a test one in. Make sure that it is.
Measure it.
Exactly.
Light meter's not that expensive.
Yeah, measure it, because God love projector manufacturers, but one person's even when talking about lumens, one person's 3,000 lumens is another person's 2,500, and vice versa. So just make sure that you get actual measurements, and most of them will send you a test or a demo unit, unless you're Greg, who works for UCLA, and they'll just send you one for free.
Actually, Stewart Film Screen, because we've bought a lot of Stewart screens because they're a few miles away. They sent us a light meter. You can get a perfectly fine light meter for less than $100. Nobody's got an excuse for not having a light meter. Yeah. And the first thing you'll notice is that all these wonderful thousands of lumens you're getting out of these light cannons that you're buying, they're lying to you.
Yes. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying.
You're not getting what they're telling you you're getting. And some are somewhat close, and others aren't very close.
That's
toss the projector, toss the cheap projector brand of your choice in here.
Yeah, and we're not talking about anyone in particular. I mean, that there's.
Could.
They're like politicians. They all lie. They all lie.
Some lie more than others.
Yes.
At least I've discovered.
Yeah.
Some are relatively close, and some are not.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's part of my issue with as we move into lasers and other light engines is trying to get to that, trying to get to an even keel, or at least as long as everybody's starting with 0, then we can all be on the same playing field. But I don't think that everybody is. All right, this is from thejournal.com. The Internet of Things is to hit 25 billion units by the end of 2020. It's supposed to be a $260-some-odd billion industry. The reason I'm bringing that up with you guys is what that does to your networks and with your systems, right? We've talked about BYOD on this program a number of times. But Ernie, what is that going to do to your wireless system or your wireless video system when you have a class of 30 students who all want to show their thing or all want to do present from their own devices, whether that's a tablet or a cell phone or whatever the next fancy iteration of technology is going to be?
Well, I've got an easy solution to that here on our campus because, as you know, we're a health science campus. We have a hospital attached, and there are all sorts of HIPAA rules. So you bring something in that transmits something wirelessly other than basic network, and our network people shut it down.
Okay.
So I don't have that issue with my wireless network at all. But we do allow bring your own device, and we have connection points where you can connect via wire. But, the first thing I thought about this is go back just a few years ago, and Daylight and Draper both started putting network jacks on screens, projection screens.
Yeah.
And my first thought is that's ridiculous. Why do you need a screen on a network? Well, I've got an engineer now who has actually explained it to me, and he says, it's a whole lot easier to poll and say, are you down to the screen than sending a down command to it every time you need it to work. Just polling it to see if it's okay, see if it's working. He said some of them will tell you they're jammed or whatever, so you do get some feedback from them. So I guess any device you hook up to the network can, if used properly, provide some good material, good information back to you. But we are running into instances now with our wireless system where, while we may not allow someone to have a wireless video feed to a projector, we do have students that are setting up a hotspot in a classroom, and if we're running our high-density access points, it actually interferes with the pattern of pickup for our wireless access points, and it changes the dynamics of some of the wireless capabilities we're trying to offer the rest of the students.
Wow.
And the students don't think about anything. They might not even know they have a hotspot going. If their phone is active, it may be a hotspot, and it's caused some issues and using some other technologies. But I mean, there are a whole lot of things.
Is that something you can easily diagnose? Like, hey, this is the issue, and
No.
can you triangulate it? Like the student, the issue is in row 7.
I can tell you what room it's in, generally.
Okay.
Our network engineers. No, we can't tell you what room it is. We can figure it out. Now, they can tell me the IP and the MAC address of the device that's doing it. And,
okay.
If it's someone that's actually logged on to our network with another device and they're connected to it, we can tell you who it is.
Oh wow. Okay.
They have to turn on the hidden cameras to take a look and see who it is.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah. I told you we don't hide our cameras. We send photographers into the rooms. So.
Yeah, that's Harvard. Greg, you have more than one occasion spun yarns of the multiple fiefdoms of IT departments at UCLA.
Yes.
So let's talk about Internet of Things and how that's going to work in a situation like that, where you do, in all seriousness, UCLA does have several different IT departments. So how is that going to work going across campus?
First I was going to say there with Ernie talking about the networked screens, I think that's pretty useful. Although what we really need is the screen that can report back to us when the professor has written on it with the permanent marker.
Give them time; it will.
That's the feedback that we need.
And it'll be an audible scream. I'm being written on.
Yeah, we're just moving it from the tech walking into the room to the tech monitoring it in control of some sort, right? Yeah. Oh, the Internet of Things. Here we finally seem to have a buy-in that we should have Wi-Fi in all of the classrooms. So Internet of Things is not high on many radars around here. Fascinating stuff. I'm not quite sure what it's going to mean for us long term in higher ed, but certainly everything is going to be networked. But what that's going to look like, I don't know.
All right. Mike at Ithaca, is this an issue for you guys? Is this on your radar, or is it just not a non-starter?
Yeah, it's a big hot topic at the moment. We hired a new CIO maybe 3 months ago, and we're also in the process of upgrading our wireless network. So he's working with the assumption that he wants to be able to support 7 devices per student in the future. Yeah.
We're
in
at
the
3.
Yeah, in the beginning of the project, it was at 4, and when he came in, he said, "That's great for now, but let's look to the future here." And when you start thinking about all the devices that students are going to have, you start approaching high numbers. So it's huge on our campus right now. We're right in the middle of this big upgrade, um, and I was actually reading an article that Cisco was estimating by 2020 to have 50 billion devices, double what this one was talking about. So, which they're the ones making the networking equipment, so I'm sure they, want to boost that number up a bit. But it's such an unknown. I mean, if they can estimate that many, it's who knows how many devices are going to be connected here. So.
Okay, let's do a quick poll because 5 kind of. I mean, I've got 3 that I can think of right now.
Yeah.
I'll do a quick poll. Mike, how many wireless devices, I guess? If you're a student, how many wireless devices are you want to connect?
We originally were looking at, okay, they're going to have a phone, they might have a tablet, and a laptop, and then, give it 1 extra. So let's go with 4. That was the beginning of this wireless upgrade project. That was the assumption.
All right. So, but you personally, how many do you have? Like, do you have the tablet and the phone and the
I do. I have all 3. Yep.
Okay.
So,
Mr. Brown, you don't have anything because you're a Luddite.
Actually, I've got 2 phones, a tablet, a
2 phones?
Yeah, I'm switching one though. I can kind of pad my number there temporarily.
Oh, good night.
And a laptop, and have a wireless access point at home, and
so there's 5. You are the 5.
Wireless. Actually, have a wireless cable receiver out in the garage.
Holy cow! All right, and then Ernie.
Uverse. It's not cable. It's
the same. It's AT&T's version.
Yeah, don't say that to anybody that works for AT&T.
Okay. And Ernie, how many do you have?
I carry 3. I've got a laptop, I've got a tablet, and a phone.
Okay. Yeah, I'm the same. I've got, depending on where I am. This year I spent an awful lot of time going to different conferences, and when I do that, I bring a laptop to do AV Week and the different programs that we record. So I have a work laptop, and then I have an AV Nation laptop, I guess is the best way to put it. And so then I have 4, but I cannot. I mean, unless we're talking like gaming systems and stuff like that. I can't imagine what 5, but again, who knows? There might be, there is some technology that none of us have thought of that's going to be invented in the next 10 years.
Google Glass.
There we go. Yeah.
iWatch,
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
AV Nation laptop. That must be where our raises went to this year, huh?
That was like 3 years ago, but yes, that's where your raises went. I will give you 100 times what I paid you last year.
Now wait a second. Did you buy me a cup of coffee last year?
So I'll buy you 100.
You got Starbucks cards on the way.
Starbucks cards. There we go. All right. This one kind of caught my interest. It's from our buddies over at Commercial Integrator. The title is Strategies for Passing Higher Ed Tech Clients Mass Notification Tests. So since you are all higher ed clients of some sort, I wanted to kind of pick your brains. Mike, we'll start with you from Ithaca College's standpoint. What are you looking for when it comes to mass notification systems? I mean, what is it that you guys need to have, and then maybe 1 or 2 I would love to have things?
Yeah, right now we rely on the outdoor speaker system on campus. We have text messaging. Yes, we have the text messaging, and then email system. We're looking to integrate it into digital signage network on campus. So that's kind of the next item that we're going to be integrating. But that's really what we're using right now.
All right. Mr. Brown, besides the voice of God, what sort of mass notification things do you guys need?
Well, what we do is we do emails and texts. I'm not sure what we need. I'm not sure how well ours and many of these other systems work, to be honest. really a lot of them sort of reek of administrative CYA, if you know what I mean.
Hmm.
I think this is an area that is ripe for a standard of some sort of some sort of a performance standard of how I don't know how you would do this, how you would figure out what percentage of your student body you reach, how fast or something like that. It's kind of probably a pretty squirrely area to try and get a standard wrapped around, but I think it's an area that really, really needs something like that because I I don't have a lot of confidence. I mean, a lot of people are doing them. I'm not convinced a lot of people are doing them real effectively.
Well, and the problem with that is this, right? So how do you test that? There was a story a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I'm
Chuck
just
Wilson,
bringing you the problem. I don't have
yeah,
an answer.
Chuck Wilson from the NSCA retweeted the story. Unfortunately, it was a K-12 school that unfortunately didn't let anyone know that they were testing this system and did the test and freaked a whole lot of people out.
A move that has career limiting written all over it.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. But to Greg's point, how do you know? I mean, certainly there is someone much smarter than at least me, that has a way to determine how many people it's reached, right? Or whether or not that it's being heard or seen or at least, acknowledged without testing it and freaking out, an entire town of parents. I don't know. But yeah, that was an interesting one.
It's like when they accidentally set off the emergency sirens at the nuclear power plant about down in Orange County a number of years ago. That's the way to alarm a lot of people really fast.
Wow. Yeah, we have a number of those around, not directly around here, but just across the state. And yeah. Ernie, from you guys' standpoint, mass notification, what are you looking for?
Well, we do. I mean, ours is very similar to what Mike said. We have the outdoor paging. We have text messaging, and trying to get it tied into our digital signage system, which is minimal anyway. We also have overhead speakers throughout all of our education buildings that are all tied into the police station. Not to our police station, but our notification group that's targeted by our police station. But we do make announcements to our neighborhood when we test once a quarter our outdoor sirens and notifications. But all the neighborhoods in the area get flyers at their door, as well as they get copies of the schedule, which tells me, if you want to bring a gun onto campus and start shooting up people, you do it at noon on Wednesday, the second Wednesday of the first month of the quarter, and because all the signs tell people to ignore the sirens at that time. So, it's like Greg said, the siren goes off, what do you do? And, I've always thought, when growing up, what if on Monday at noon is when Russia decides to bomb us?
Exactly.
We will,
or here in the Midwest, and Ernie probably knows this.
Tornadoes.
We test the tornadoes the first Tuesday of every month.
Yeah.
Well, what happens if we have a tornado the first Tuesday of the month? So,
yeah.
Tornadoes, Greg, are big, giant funnel clouds.
I've heard of them actually. Yeah, I've heard of them.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. Never actually seen them. We just have earthquakes up here.
All right. By the way, your video went bye again. So.
I've noticed.
I think it's your new office.
Yeah, is that what it is?
Yes.
I don't get an internet I had to fight for the internet connection.
And it's actually just two squirrels running around in circles. So. All right. We'll
take your plant offline and we'll have it back. Probably.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Well, it's a good thing we're at the end here. We'll do one more story and we'll move on. One thing that's been interesting for me, a year ago now, I was still a tech manager at a community college just outside St. Louis. Now I'm more into the service providing. I run a company called Innovad. We're independent programmer and designer. So Apex is interesting to me now. It's the audiovisual Provider of Excellence certification from Infocom. The reason I wanted to bring this up is they announced it at Infocom 2014 this year in June. The first integrator to receive this is actually just up the road from me in Bloomington Normal, Illinois, called ZDI. Part of the certification process is interviewing your clients. So actually, Ernie is one of my clients. This is going to be a dangerous question. First of all, Ernie, how open would you be to Infocom? Now, you all three are involved in Infocom, and so you have relationships already with Infocom. Let's pretend that you don't, right? Let's just kind of you know Infocom cursory, or you go to the show, or what have you. Let's pretend that you and Greg haven't been, chairs of the Technology Managers Council. How open would you be, and what would you tell them?
Well, as far as the openness, I would start out with questions, about any legal liability about what I say, and can the company come back? That would be the first thing that come to my mind, which is really, I guess, a sad reflection on our environment right now. But that's be the first thing I thought. But if I knew that what I said was protected and that I would not be held liable or for hurting someone's business or anything like that, I would be open and honest with them. I would let them know. On the other side of this, I like the fact that it's not just how many people do you have that were able to pass the CTS exam that determines what level you are. It's how good a job are you doing for your clients out there? Because I've worked with some people who had their whatever jewel of the month it was, or precious metal, but they, the people that I got to deal with in the company, we did not know AV.
Yeah. Would confidentiality be a factor for you? Like if you knew that either they not going to hear the words that you're saying and attribute them to you, or does that matter?
That would matter to some extent. I would want it to be confidential. I would hate to find out that I was the only one that was interviewed and the company knew that.
Yeah.
But if I'm part of a big poll, especially, and they tell me that it's anonymous, I will be very forthcoming.
Okay. All right, Mike. From your standpoint, how open and honest are you going to be if you get picked to help someone's Apex certification?
I would be pretty honest. I think, confidentiality I think would be important, but I like the fact that they're doing these interviews because, like Ernie was saying, you don't just pay your money and get a few certifications and you get your badge, because there's a lot of certifications out there for companies that are like that. They pay their money and they got it, and it doesn't hold much weight. So I like it. I think it's a good idea. Looking forward to seeing more companies taking part in it. I wonder if it's if companies might see it as too difficult of a process for not enough payout, possibly. Maybe they don't think they're going to get enough business by getting the certification, all the work they have to put into it. So,
Mike, I think that's up to us, and if we, as their customers, require it on bids or give them additional points towards a bid contract or on an RFI or an whatever, we tell them, what is your level? How many points do you have? It ranks right up there with checking their references. Basically, it just gives us another reference point. But like we were saying, we have to be honest when we evaluate them, and then we have to tell them that we're going to use those evaluations to determine, or use the score that they got because of those evaluations to determine if they get to do business somewhere else.
I wonder how long it'll take to have enough companies take part in this certification to be able to require it. We have a 5-year period where everybody needs to get this certification, or we'll see how quickly people embrace it.
That's a good point. I was actually going to ask that very question, because some of this has to do with, goes back to Infocom, right? God love them, but Ernie's right. You know, the jewel of the month, the precious metal of the month, they need to stick with this for a while.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now, what I have done in the past to encourage it is, you know, we may not require it, but we give you extra points towards the final score. So if there's only one person in the market, if one person in your market gets it or one person on the bid gets it, they've got a good shot at winning the bid solely based on that. The other providers in your market should start seeking it.
Mm.
I hope. Can you guys still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I'm still here in voice, if not, if not, you know, my dashing good looks. And I've got about like 3 things on my desktop which are frozen at this point, so I'm not going to touch anything because everything's going to come crashing down any minute. I hope this is, you know, speaking again to Infocom, you know, God love them, but I really hope this is something that they take the time, yes, to not only stick with, but to look at going down the road and tweak as necessary to make this something worthwhile. I'm concerned that, you know, so many of these projects, when they go bad, they turn into the never getting to the done. You know, they're mostly done, but you're chasing those annoying little things, and you're begging or pleading or threatening them to come back to fix sort of things, little things. And I really hope that you know, when they're sending out these reviews or trying to get feedback from people, you know, if they are in the middle of, you know, trying to get something out of these companies that wasn't spelled out ahead of time, that's a very awkward position to be in. Yeah. And yeah, I'm kind of wondering how this is also going to on the front end get the momentum where people know about it and sponsor it and follow it and start using it
and request it.
Yeah, because you know we've certainly had the discussion here in these higher ed circles how most of the people above us have no freaking idea who Infocom is whatsoever, and they're going to start using this standard. Well, you know, we can champion that to a certain extent, but you know, I think the reality is, you know, a lot of the people on the business side of things, the last thing they want to do is actually start listening to us.
Yeah.
Well, no, they do. And here's the other thing. To Mike's point, it's a boatload of work. I mean, I've got our team looking at it. Holy cow! It's a lot of work, and some of it is best practices, which people should start be doing anyway. But the other part is getting your client list and getting folks to agree to talk to Infocom, right? It's the other part.
Not only that, but I wonder what kind of staff Infocom has working on it. How quick are they going to be processing these for companies? Is there going to be a big backlog? Because it seems like it takes a lot of time to do all these interviews and go through this process on Infocom's end too. So.
Yeah, I'd be interested if any of you get picked. Let me know, because that's kind of interesting. I'm kind of interested from that aspect of how the interview process takes place. So.
Yeah.
Now, Greg, the way I read through it the other day, but do you send Infocom your client list? Or
yes. So you provide. So part of the process is you do the paperwork and you provide them a list of clients, right? That you've done work with recently, and within I think there's a time frame. I don't recall it off the top of my head, but there's a time frame that
tell them everyone that you worked with.
I don't know that. I don't know the answer off the top of my head.
An ugly little loophole.
Yeah. If you only turn in the ones that everything worked great on, then that's going to skew it. So.
Well, and the other part is. The other part is some people may not be open to it, right? So, so maybe the ones that you screwed up on, they're like, no, I don't want to tell anybody how badly you did. So no thanks.
Yeah, there was a group working with the ISO 9000 side of this, you know, on error-free completed projects several years ago, and they got into kind of a snit with some of the Infocom folks because they were taking a different path. But they were looking at and I think they actually had an AV 9000 certification that you could get, and that is through an international accrediting body as opposed through an industry organization.
Yeah.
So it's independent, and the ISO 9000 standard is known by every executive, every CEO and COO on the planet. They're familiar with what that means and what it takes to achieve it and to maintain it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to call it a show for December. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Mike Tomei from Ithaca, thank you, sir.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Where can people find you and or Ithaca College?
Yep. So Ithaca, ithaca.edu is the school, and I can be found on LinkedIn. Probably the best place for me.
All right. Greg Brown, just tell people where to find you and stuff.
LinkedIn or what's the Tweety thing? Twitter. And
at AV Greg.
Yes. Thank you. Thanks I'm glad somebody remembers my handle. And let's see, Infocom All Voices blog, and soon the long-awaited AV Nation blog.
I don't even think I've seen it yet, so whenever you want to send it.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, the other day was Mr. Greg Brown's birthday, so happy 21st birthday.
Happy birthday, Greg.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. That's exactly the sort of rumor I would like to start.
Yeah, Greg just turned 21, so he's legal in California.
There we go. And I figured out the problem with my computer. Our network is obviously not waterproof. It's raining outside, so.
Oh, well, there you go.
That's obviously the problem.
Because you always hardly ever get rain. So, Ernie Bailey from UAMS, thank you, sir.
Yes, that's uams.edu. The best place to find me is on LinkedIn.
Okay.
So.
All right, very good.
It never rains in Southern California.
I know, you poor thing. You'll probably send you guys home early, honestly.
Actually, I drove in today, so it's kind of whenever I feel like leaving to a certain extent.
Jeez. All right. My name is Tim Albright. Don't follow me on Twitter. I generally, at this point in the season, am complaining about the Bears and their lack of playing. But go to
Are they playing?
Yes, they still play. They at least attempt to.
Must be nice to live in a city with a professional football team.
Hey, you know what? You're going to have one in a couple weeks anyway, so it doesn't matter. What are you talking about? That's a whole another discussion about the Rams and where they're going. But go by the website.
Let's talk hockey.
Yeah, never mind. Go by the website if you would, please. avnation.tv, avnation.tv. You can find this program and a host of others. A ton of people have jumped on and started writing stuff for us. Gina Sands just posted a brand new one. Greg Brown has been hinting at one for months and months, but other folks are as well. So some pretty great stuff. News shows as well. And if you get a chance, and if you hear this within the next week, and you want to help us send 3 or 4 folks to ISE, Integrated Systems Europe, go by the website. There's a Kickstarter there. So
where do we stand?
5,800 as of right now.
Okay.
So just that close. So we're trying to get 10 grand because that'll help send 3 folks from AV Nation to go cover the show over in Amsterdam. It's the world's largest AV show, AV trade show. So some pretty great stuff. So some really great people have given already. And at this point, it's kind of like one of those things where there's a lot of people supporting this, and I want to make it for them, right? Because it would be really great to have all these folks and their commitment to pay off. So we'll see. It ends next Monday or next Tuesday. So, but yeah, go by there if you would, please. avnation.tv, avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening and watching. This has been EdTech.